Let's see how we can make that API accessible on localhost. Which API? This test Docker API. This is built on .NET 9.0, the latest framework, and we have a Docker file here. And the API is very simple and the basic template, the minimal API template. And the Docker file is very simple. I'm not going into the details of the contents of that Docker file, but generally, if I can summarize, it has two parts. One is for making release, and the other one is running that released version. And the issue here is if we make that image and we run that image in a container, we don't have a way to access that running API on local machine on localhost, and we will see how we can figure that out. So first of all, let's build that image and run this API. Let me open up the CMD, and I'm going to build that Docker, and the command is docker build -d and the name of the image test API. It will take few seconds, which is done now. And next thing is open my Docker client, the Windows application. And in the same Windows application, we have terminal at the bottom as well. Let's go to the builds, and we can see that just now the build is succeed, and which means we can now go to the images and we have that image available. So if we select that and run it, it will run our image inside a container, and seems like application is now running. But how we can access it? There is no way to access this directly. So if I click on localhost something something and hit the URL, we will not going to reach to that API directly. So to fix that, first of all, let's stop that container and go to our Docker file again. And here we need to add two lines. First, we need to add env, the environment for the ports, and we are setting port to 5001. You can specify as per your requirement, and we need to expose that 5001 port as well. Let me save and again run the same command, and it will create a fresh copy of that image. Let's go back to the images and builds, and we have now the build done just now. And if we see the images, we have that image appearing here. And if I click run now, we still will not be able to access that from the URL, and let me tell you why shortly. Let me go back and refresh. We don't have that API available yet, so to make that one available, we need to expose the ports as well, because currently if we see our image, we don't have visibility of the ports on that image as well. So for that one, we need to go to the terminal, and now here we need to run a command which is docker run -p is the port, and we are giving access to 5001 port to the 5001 port, and the name of our image is test API. Let me run this command, and this time now if we go to the containers, we should have that container up and running. Now we can see that the ports property is also available, and the port is now coming with localhost. And if we click on this one now and hit the weather forecast, we have that data coming on that URL. So this is how we can expose containerized web API built on .NET 9.0 to that ports setting. So this is one way to figure out the ports and run that image inside a container. There are a couple of other ways as well. So this is sweet and short. That's why I shared that in a video. I will be sharing few more scenarios in my coming videos. See you in the next one.